But my understanding is that she was referring to cleaning up all this inner conflicts that we have within us in our urban society. What I noticed is of those people who read the series and got inspired to the point of wanting to do something in practice and changing their life in reality, those who tend to be successful in their city life tend to be successful in their eco-village life. And those who are not as successful in their city life, who have relationships issues or money concerns, etc., they usually are not as successful in creating communities. Why is it so? You know, from what I have seen, this happens because some people are going to the land because they can hear this call of Mother Earth. They really feel this is their destiny. But others are going to the land because they're running away from the city. Do you feel the difference? Going to the land or running away from the city? And those who just run away from the city because they want to escape usually bring with them the attitudes, the problems, and everything that they have there in the city. They start recreating it no matter where they are, in an eco-village or on their own, their family domain. So realizing that really the source of our problems lies most and foremost within us and not in the adverse circumstances or celestial influences, I feel it's the first step, like cleaning up and understanding that everything depends on us. Look, the evidence of it even is present in the language we speak, not just the Russian language, the English language. The word will, W-I-L-L, has two functions. The first function is your intent, something that you wish, but also it is a verb that is used to form the future tense. It will happen. You know, the fact that it is one and the same verb, and not just in English, in many other languages, shows that our ancestors were not making a distinction between our intent and something happening to us. So when I hear people saying, I really do want to change my life, to use this terminology, I have the will to change my life, but I will not be able to do it, at least in this lifetime, because, and there is a long list of reasons why. Well, to me, it tells that there is probably not real will behind this intent. You know, I have a story to share with you. There was a lady who read the book back in 2005 when it was first published in English and gave me a call. She lived in the same city as I at the time, Columbia, Missouri, USA, and she said, I read on the station, now I know what I should be doing in my life. We put our house on the market, and as soon as it sells, we move to an eco-village. I said, well, are you sure you want to sell it? Maybe you can rent it out and just give it a try to see what eco-village life really is about. She said, no, I have 2 children and it would be a crime to continue raising them up in the urban environment. No. So they sold their house and went to one of Missouri's eco-villages. They come to this eco-village only to discover after their first week there that actually in this particular place people were very anti-children because they believe that the Mother Earth is overpopulated and the best contribution that all of us can make to saving the Mother Earth is to refrain from having any children. And not only she had already 2 children of her own, she was training herself to become a midwife. And she found herself all of a sudden in this environment in which she was looked upon almost as a criminal. And they didn't last even 1 month in this eco-village and decided to move into the woods and start living on their own, just creating their family homestead. They rented a cabin in the woods, moved there, and wanted to connect the phone line, but discovered that instead of the phone socket in the wall, there were just wires sticking out. They called the phone company, and the phone company said, you know, we will not go 45 miles, we will not send a technician to go 45 miles, disconnect a phone socket. We will connect it on our end, but you need to install the phone socket yourself. And it really was coming down to connecting the yellow wire with the yellow wire and the red one with the red one. But for them, people who grew up in the city and never had any kind of independent living experience, this was already too much. They freaked out and returned to the city of Columbia with all their children 6 months after they set out on their adventure. And of course, we're blaming everything on Anastasia, because they believe the book contained the promise that once you start creating the beautiful reality for your children, everything will fall into place on its own. In Russian eco-villages, some people think that because they read the books and because they are joining an Anastasia community, squirrels will be bringing them food. You don't need to plant your garden. Haven't seen too many examples of that. If you have, please tell me. But to me it says that, in addition to this great inspiration, it's really a lot of work too. Our going from where our ancestors were and the lifestyle that they had to where we are now has taken so long that the transition back, not just to living in harmony with nature, but learning how to live with each other, as you say. It's such a challenge that might take more than one generation to accomplish. I noticed that, what's more, 10 families of 10 million people. 10 families is more, thank you. I noticed when we started living in an eco-village that it is more difficult to get along well with 10 neighbors, 10 families in your community, than it is to live in a 10 million people city like Moscow. And do you know what? Why? Because in the city we do not have human beings. We have their functions. Well, of course it's a human being, but it's a policeman. He stopped you for speeding. So you interact with this human being not as a real human being, but as his function. And the same applies to almost everybody, council officials and taxi drivers and people who check you out at your convenience store. So we are interested in them only as much as their functions are concerned. And the other aspect of urban life, which really disintegrates the moment that you move to a community, in the city our relationships are interchangeable. If your relationships with another person or another family disintegrated, who cares? There are 10 million other families or individuals to make friends with or to try to find yourself another partner. Well, when you are in a community where people are committed to being there for a long time, if you are not getting along well with your neighbor, too bad for you, because he might be there for the rest of your life. So just the reality of being there puts people in the conditions where they need to start relearning what it is living in a community. And it all comes down ultimately to our understanding of who we are. The whole book is called Who Are We? It's so crucial. In our Western society, we're being brought up on the understanding that we are individuals separate from the rest of the world. Actually, the word individual literally means the opposite. Undivided, individual, not separate from the rest of the world. But the way we understand this word today is we are just separate from everything. This word человек that we were struggling with translating into the English language, the Russian word for human being, or man with a capital M, in the Russian language means eternal thought. But when in turn you start looking at what the original meaning of the word eternal and the original meaning of the word thought is, do you know what the original meanings of two words are? Whole branch. So a human being is a whole branch. It's not just a dry leaf on the pavement, one gust of wind and it is gone forever. It is a leaf or a branch on this huge family tree, literally, the family tree, the tree of life. And when people start seeing themselves not as somebody who lives just for themselves and trying to enjoy life before it's ended forever, but seeing yourself as one link in this limitless chain of all the previous generations, your roots, your generation, you today, but then the limitless number of future generations, the shoots, your descendants, then our life choices start to be very different. And this is one of the reasons why in the old time the people didn't have the same fear of death as we have now, because they saw that there was really no death. The name Anastasia itself means resurrection, and it reflects this very basic concept of the worldview of the pagan societies, that death is just part of the cycle of life, like in nature. In the Russian language, the word God, even the word God, means only one thing, and this one thing is a year. In the Russian language, God and year is the same word, because in the ancient times, the cycle of nature, the birth in the spring, the growth and maturity and blossoming of the summertime, then fruit bearing in the fall, in the autumn, then the seeming death of the winter time, and rebirth the next spring. This is what was seen as divinity, reflected in the world of nature around us. Even the word agriculture, the word cult, can you tell me what the original meaning of the cult is? Cultivation of the soil, taking care of the soil. If you open the English language dictionary, these meanings are still out there. And this was actually the first and the only meaning of the word cult. So why is it that the word cult had this meaning? Well, because it was the only kind of religion. People were seeing in our caring for Mother Earth the only kind and the only way of connecting with the forces that created us all. Not even created us all, but who gave birth to us all. You know, the Russian culture, and not just the Russian culture, this pagan society, they had no concept of there being an intermediary between God and a human being. There was an understanding that because we are all the descendants, the children of the force that created life, as long as you are alive, your heartbeat is evidence enough that you have this direct link to the force that created life. It is just so obvious. So when somebody came 1,000 years ago to Russia and started spreading the ideas on that, you know, there should be only special people who are allowed to be as intermediaries between you and the source of all life, this was incomprehensible. Because they were not, again, separating the everyday life experiences and the concepts of divinity. Today, people who are concerned about spirituality, for the most part, see it as something that is separate from their everyday living, right? People either go to church or practice meditation or yoga every day, but it is not necessarily part of your everyday life. Well, in the old times, your everyday living was what was seen as a path to enlightenment. Literally, enlightenment meant being in the sun, in the rays of the sun. It was only later that people thought that to attain enlightenment you need to go to a cave where there is no sunlight and spend 20 years in meditation. But all our ancestors were enlightened every day, well, unless it was cloudy. You know, when one of the greatest messages, not even the messages, but something that I got from the reading to the series, or more from starting to live this kind of living this kind of lifestyle, is that your life can really become so thrilling and so fulfilling. You will realize there is no separation between fulfillment and spirituality and our everyday living, as long as we take full responsibility for everything that we do. Why is it important? Well, because Anastasia explained beautifully, if somebody does not exercise their legs, well, the muscles will atrophy. And if you do not exercise any of your abilities, they will go away. So in our society now, we tend to delegate our responsibility for almost every aspect of our life. From growing our own food, to raising our own children, to providing for our own security, we delegate it to somebody, to professionals. But with it, we delegate the joys and the rewards that